how do I juggle all those things? And it's kind of different every day. It's different every week. You have to decide to do your very best and to prioritize what's most important today.
This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up.
Welcome to the Beyond Net Worth podcast. Today we have a special guest. His name is Dennis Leavitt. He is the president of United We Pledge, which is a charitable organization to help kids learn more about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, our country in general, and just overall patriotism.
Yeah, growing up with Dennis as my spiritual leader, it was cool to hear how he transitioned into business, but still kept God first, as well as kept his passion for teaching alive. So I know you're going to enjoy today's episode. Here it is. No, welcome to the show, Dennis. We've been looking forward to this one for quite some time.
Oh, you guys are my heroes, man. You guys are doing life the right way. Young, passionate, energetic, brilliant thinkers. Yeah, you're just tackling the world with all energy. It's fantastic to watch. For us old, wrinkly guys, we love seeing you young guns, just getting the job done. It's fantastic. Happy to be here.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're spry, man. I don't know if you knew this, but I grew up down the street from Dennis Leavitt and always looking up to him. I knew him as a seminary teacher, as a stake president. I'm sure I ding-dong ditched him a couple times. He was my young men's leader, but we had a lot of fun in the Snow Canyon 11th Ward.
No, once a Snow Canyon 11th Ward priest, always a Snow Canyon 11th Ward priest, right? That's the way we rocked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And dive into it a little bit about your background. I mean, your current title is the president of United We Pledge. That's an awesome nonprofit. But back up for us a little bit more too of kind of your early on backgrounds, how you grew up, where you got into business, because I know that was your background first, and then eventually seminary, right?
Yeah. So I'm a St. George boy, right? I grew up here in St. George. My parents were divorced when I was a kid. I was 5 years old. We lived in Las Vegas. I have 4 older brothers. Okay. I was one of those happy surprises or accidents, however you want to describe it. There was about a decade between the brother next to me and me.
Okay.
And by the time I came along as a 5-year-old, my parents, they just couldn't work things out. So my mom moved here to St. George. She wanted to raise 5 boys kind of outside of the Las Vegas area.
Probably a smart move.
Yeah, smart. She's a smart lady. And so I landed here and grew up here in this town. That was back in the times when Dixie High School was the only show in town, a small little, probably 18 or 20,000 people, residents, all that was in St. George. Everyone kind of knew each other. It was a small, I don't know, have you ever heard of the Andy Griffith Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of this Mayberry type of attitude. St. George back in the day was pure Mayberry.
Oh,
just stay out late with your friends, and when it's time to go home for dinner, go home for dinner. And there's just this kind of childhood, very cool vibe about St. George, Utah. In all its glory and splendor now, it was an undiscovered gem back then. So those of us who lived here just enjoyed every moment of St. George, Utah. That means I graduated from Dixie High School, home of the Flyers, served a mission in a place called Adelaide, Australia.
Oh, wow.
I was called for a couple of years to serve in Adelaide, but by the time I was out, they changed and did a mission test to move mission lengths to 18 months instead of 2 years.
Okay.
So I served a mission for my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, came home, went to the only college in town called Dixie College back in the day. It's now Utah Tech University. Went to Dixie College, and there I met my wife. And we met in an interesting way. It then transferred to BYU. I had a a great scholarship to go to BYU after that, and the rest is kind of history. But
Nikel's awesome too. She's just equal, or I guess greater, right? That's what our
greater
wives
than,
all.
yeah, greater than. In terms of, I sometimes get a lot of the limelight. I'm up on front rows and up on stages and things like that. But in terms where the rubber meets the road, she's legitimate. She is a doer. She's a great servant and passionate about people. She's got a great sense of humor, and she's just kind of been by my side ever since. And she's fantastic.
I've seen it up close at youth conferences. She's always the one running the show behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean by interesting? You met her in an interesting way?
Yeah. So typical, again, depending on how much you know about our church, right? There's this thing called an elders quorum president who leads the men, the men in the ward, and a Relief Society president who's responsible for the women. So at a college ward, right, a bunch of young single adults, she happens to be the Relief Society president. I happen to be the elders quorum president. We go to an activity. I had never met her before, but it was a basketball shooting activity, right?
Okay.
You ever played that speed game, right? Where you start at the foul line, you keep shooting. If you make the basket, you know that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we start playing this speed game of basketball, and it got down to her and I.
Oh.
And I said, hey, I'm no dummy, right? I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, but I'm no dummy. I said, if you win, then I take you out for a date. If I win, then I take you out for a date. Yep.
Win-win.
Yeah, win-win situation for me.
Win-win.
I did not know at that time she was a member of the Dixie College basketball team and had a scholarship out of high school to BYU to play basketball. Ooh. So I didn't have a chance anyway when all was said and done, but I just didn't know that about her. So she won, needless to say.
Got your date?
Yeah, we got a hot fudge sundae at a local hot spot called Denny's. What a great first date, right? But that's how we officially met, was at a church activity, and she beat me in basketball.
There you go.
Power couple.
That sounds like
There we
my
go.
wife. My wife played college basketball. I did not, and she can whoop up on a lot of guys.
Yeah,
So.
that's exactly right. And that's the kind of girl I wanted to marry anyway, right? Somebody who could be energetic and enthusiastic and have a zest for life and do things that we both enjoyed together. So it was a perfect match.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I mean, your spouse is a big deal on where you go and what you do in your life. And so it's pretty cool to see. Forgive me because I don't know a lot about your story. Ben just mentioned that I know that you taught seminary, and I hope we can talk about that, but you were in business before you started teaching seminary?
Well, I studied. I have an entrepreneurial family. My 4 older brothers all have their own businesses and have been very successful.
Yeah.
None of them actually went to college. They just kind of went to the school of hard knocks, right?
Oh, wow.
And just kind of born in them. They were hustlers and want to make a buck. They were raised by a single mom as well, so it was hard to come by cash in some ways, and so they found ways to solve that problem.
Yeah.
I felt a little differently. I felt inspired and felt that education was an important part of my life. It really resonated with me. Mm-hmm. So I had that little entrepreneurial spirit. I started working when I was a young kid. My first job officially was at the pizza factory when I was 16 years old. But before that, I washed dishes and shined shoes and mowed lawns and did everything that everyone does, right? Just trying to get out there and hustle. And Bill Randall, the owner of the pizza factory, is just a really great friend and mentor. And he talked to me about, investing my money wisely and being a good business guy and, doing things that way. When I got home from my mission, I worked with some physical therapists for a while, some local guy. So like everybody, you're trying to decide where you're going to land.
Yeah.
Ben, you may or may not remember this, but when you graduated from school, I was working for a company called Squatty Potty, and we had an interview, and you thought that was the job really that was for you. And then all of a sudden we learned that, that fit wasn't exactly what it should be, but thank heavens it wasn't, right? Because where you've gone and what you've accomplished since. So that's the same kind of experience I had, right? Just trying to, when you're in school, trying to navigate your way through life as a young married, you're trying to decide where does it all fit. So those were the kind of business things I did. Nothing spectacular other than some great business classes that I loved, some business opportunities here and there. But when we transferred to Brigham Young University, in order to make my way or pay my way through school, I worked at a little place called the MTC, the Missionary Training Center. And that's when I got bit by the teaching bug, and I got bit hard. It's really in my DNA. When all's said and done, I feel like teaching is a gift that I have, and I had to utilize that gift in some way. So during the early part of my career, I taught full time, and then like every teacher, right? You got to find a side hustle. You got to find a side gig in order to kind of keep paying bills and doing the things you did. So nights and weekends and summers, I found other ways to kind of do business on the side and keep scratching that itch too.
Yeah, I heard on the Follow Hidden podcast this morning, they said one of the professors pulled the guest speaker aside and said, I don't say this to everybody because you kind of have to swear your life to poverty, but I think you should get into education. He was just joking around about it, but he's a BYU professor now and everything, but he said the same thing. It's just, there's something about it. He loves it so much, and he couldn't see himself doing anything else, at least for him in that point. But it's such an important thing. I mean, being educators and teaching is extremely valuable. And we, unfortunately, we don't put enough on that, as we should. But
in our society, we certainly don't, right? Yeah. Our society, we determine worth by how much of a paycheck someone's going to get.
Yeah.
And teachers don't get enough pay. There's no question in my mind. However, those who do it, including myself, really feel inspired and moved to do it. We're passionate about it. I gave my heart and soul to teaching in every way. And even after I kind of flipped my life on its head and went to business full time, I still taught part time. I mean, for the last 7 years, I've taught an adult religion class every Thursday night, religiously.
At the chapel, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm not giving up teaching anytime soon till I die. And whenever I teach, however I teach, I try and give it my very best, as thoughtful as I can, as prepared as I can, and as engaging as I can. That's something that's important to me. But I first kind of captured the teaching spirit, at the MTC. I had never had a chance to teach before that, other than as a full-time missionary for our church. And you have a chance to, be in people's homes and teach and, do that kind of a thing. But in terms of professionally and preparing lessons and, thinking about your students in advance and being in a real classroom, that experience happened for me at the MTC. And then, like everybody, I went through the training to see if I could officially get hired, and made it through.
Yeah. Well, and just to tell you a little bit about Kallan's family, I'm really close with his entire family. So his brother-in-law and his brother, they're both in the seminary field, right? So I think that was one thing about when I said, hey, we should have Dennis on. Kallan's like, yes, I want to hear about every part of that story, because I have two people I'm really close with that have the same path, the same trajectory, So I think it's a really cool career path, and I always admire anyone who chooses to do it, right?
Yeah, my brother, he just got hired on. It's his first semester. He's in Arizona. Yeah. My brother-in-law has been in Enterprise, been teaching for quite a few years actually now. Dalton, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I know them both. Yeah, he's a pro. Dalton he's a great teacher.
He's an amazing human being.
Yeah.
And I really look up to him a lot. I mean, he had a huge impact on me in my life growing up, because he was such a good example. And he was, obviously 10 times the athlete I'll ever be, but because he was such a good athlete and he was a good person and had good standards, and he lived what he believed, that's what impressed me, and helped me the most, because I'm like, yeah, I want to be like that. I want to be, he kind of made doing the right thing the cool thing in my mind, because I looked up to him. But yeah, I mean, I relate a lot to giving your heart and soul into something. And that's why it came to my mind so much, and asking you about this, because I worked for my dad's when I got home from my mission, and gave my heart and soul into it. And it was one of the hardest things in the world that I've ever done, hardest decisions I've ever made. And one of the most emotional things I've ever had to go through is leaving my dad's company to go and gain some experience some other places. I wanted to learn, and I wanted to grow and expand and try to, try to evolve our own little family unit and kind of do our own little thing for a while. But it was really hard. And I think I can only imagine, having been in seminary and teaching that, what it would be like to leave that. And was it hard for you? Like that decision? I'm sure it didn't come easy, but maybe if you want, you don't have to like tell about that experience of making that transition. Because for me, I felt like with my dad's company, it was serving kind of a higher thing. Like I was, in a way, like I felt like that's where I needed to be. And
there's a lot of intrinsic value working for the church or working for your family. And, you could feel a little bit of, I don't want to say guilt, but I can't think of a better word for leaving something like that.
Yeah. Like, did you feel that way, feeling guilty for leaving working for the church, or anything like that? Because I feel like I think I'd have a really hard time, because I'd almost start in my mind, I'd start feeling like I'm selfish. Am I selling out? Am I doing this for money? Like, but it's like, well, is it okay to want to do things to make more money? Like, is that okay to want to maybe create something a little different for my life or my family's life, or to have more time off or more vacation or whatever it is, or better insurance, or I don't know. There's a lot of things that go into my mind, but anyways.
I know everything you're talking about. You sound like you've gone through a lot of the wrestle that I felt, right?
Well, that's why I'm like,
no, that's really cool. I had that similar types of wrestle. I will tell you, I see it a little differently in some ways. One, teaching is a noble profession, and everyone ought to become skilled teachers, right? There's this old argument, nature versus nurture, right? You're born a teacher or you made a teacher. You're born a great athlete and made a great athlete. And I think it's some of both always, but those who are gifted teachers and who feel called and inspired to go, not just trying to find a way. There's people who probably just try and earn a buck by doing teaching, right? That was not my experience. It's not the experience of others that I know who are gifted teachers, but we really felt like we need to make a difference in youth's lives. So there is always the pull. If you decide to change professions, there is some intrinsic value in teaching. But for me, I see it a little different. I believe we're here on earth for whatever time we're all given, and that we are to become as good of instruments and have as much in our tool bag, so to speak, as possible. Anything I have, I can share. Anything I don't have an ability to give or to lift other people in any way. So for me, I've always wanted to have as many skills and as many opportunities and see as much and develop as much personally as I ever could. It's like travel, Ben. I know you like to travel.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
we're still looking forward to Jerusalem, by the way.
That's right. We're going soon.
Okay. Is it happening?
No, we're going next year. I'm serious. That's the plan.
Okay.
But if I travel, I don't want to go to the same place over and over and over again. I want to go to new places and see and explore new things. The same way, if I feel myself as a son of God, and I have a responsibility to become as well-rounded and as competent and capable in as many areas as I can. So even though I described kind of a side hustle for teaching, part of it was, of course, it's true, we all need money to live, right?
Yeah.
But part of that was I just wanted different educational experiences. I wanted different abilities. I saw others who I admired a lot and thought, gosh, I love that skill set that you have, or I love that talent you have. I love the abilities that you have. And when I made the final decision to leave church education full-time, I knew I would not leave it behind in the rearview mirror at all.
Right.
I would still and am committed to teaching always until the day I die, because I believe in that profession. But I felt like I needed to develop other skills too and experience other kinds of opportunities in life in order to, one, make me a better person, two, make me a better servant, and three, help me in whatever time you have on earth to reach the best potential I can. So I did go through that wrestle, but I didn't leave for just crazy reasons, that I look back with a regret. I left for reasons to say, I want to become the best version of Dennis Leavitt I can become. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that's where I was coming from.
I think that makes it a lot more digestible when it's not so black and white like that, right? You're not saying, oh, I'm just giving up teaching. I'm going to continue teaching and I'm going to continue making an impact. But I feel like my life as a whole, I can have more to offer if I don't want to say diversify, but if I expand the way that I'm helping people's lives. And I think that says a lot about you. Tell us more about that pivot. So you were in the church education system, and did an opportunity come to you? Did you think this was just time, or how did that first pivot go?
The first pivot came with somebody approaching me,
Okay.
And asking if I wanted to take an opportunity. And it took me 2 or 3 years of them asking over and over again, and me kind of trying to hold on to this teaching thing, but then deciding, yeah, I want to take an opportunity. It was a good opportunity with a renowned company, good experience for me. It was beyond my resume, so I was a little nervous, right? Because I don't know that I entered that first job with the resume I needed to pull it off, but I was committed to stretching and expanding.
Yeah.
While on my mission, I had somebody who, actually a companion of mine, a guy named Kurt Butler. You don't know Kurt, but he's a great guy. But we had these great discussions in the mission field, and one of the things we determined is that a great strategy in life is a strategy employed by a lot of businesses. They have what they call board of directors, right? It's people who help oversee businesses. They help directionally the vision of a business. And when there's any real critical kinds of decisions that need to be made, a board of directors is a group of really savvy, experienced, visionary men and women who can help provide leadership and guidance for a business.
Yeah.
So we decided that in life, we ought to have a personal board of directors. It made sense to me. And after my mission, I really did approach a lot of people who were important in my life and who were really savvy and experienced and who had skills that I dreamed of having one day. And I asked them to be part of my personal board of directors. I've had a board of directors just for me personally.
Wow.
I think they know that that's what I call them. They don't operate that way. They're not paid. I don't talk to them uber frequently.
They don't ever come to the war room all at one time.
No. Yeah, they don't.
That'd be awesome.
It would be awesome. But, and it's changed and been enhanced. I've kept adding to it. Some of them have passed away, some of my, dear friends. But I tried to have a board of directors that was diverse enough that anytime I needed something in a financial arena or a religious arena or a relationship arena or a church arena, right, that I had somebody that I could go to, and they know if I come to them and say, hey, listen, I need some real advice here.
Yeah.
It's not just out golfing or talking or, visiting on the phone or seeing them in the hall or whatever the case may be. At times when I go and look them in the eye and say, I really need help, they've committed to help me with genuine, candid, honest advice.
That's invaluable.
It's been one of the great blessings in my life, actually. And so for me, I also got to this point when I was deciding whether to leave church education or not. I asked myself the question, do I have the skill set to be somebody's board of director member, or do I not? Do I need to develop other kinds of skills in order to really help? Hey, again, it's like I said, if you don't have something, you can't give it away, right? But if you have something, then you can offer it to the world. So part of that was a decision. But Kallan, candidly, some of my best friends are the seminary teachers and institute teachers that I taught with. They're dear friends. They're some of the best people on the planet. My best memories are there. And I always have a soft spot in my heart for church education. I hope church education didn't feel like I abandoned them. I certainly wasn't trying to be a traitor in any way. I was just trying to feel like I was doing what I was prompted and impressed to do, and still held on in every way to teaching opportunities afterwards. But anyway, that's how that story went for me in my life.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good. I think it paints the picture because I think people that know you know that, but I think there's a lot of pressure to stay once you're in at first, right? Wouldn't you say that, Kallan?
Well, yeah, that's the idea is going, getting into the game, not the game, but getting into that profession, and then getting out. You said it. How I would think I would feel is, you said, I hope that they don't feel like I'm a traitor, and that's kind of what I was, curious on, and how you've, your thought process towards that, how you've approached that, and, or how you overcome that. And I guess it's, at the end of the day, like you said, if you feel impressed to do that, then, you got to follow those promptings. For me, that's me and my wife, that we felt impressed with the decision we made to try to expand me and my career, my profession, and that was the goal. It was nothing malicious. It was nothing like that. It was just, I felt like I wanted to gain certain experiences to become more valuable, and that maybe one day I could bring that back to my dad's company and have just that much more to offer. But so yeah, I can't imagine I would feel that way, and I don't know how it is to overcome maybe those feelings of maybe feeling like a traitor or anything like that, or even like trying to balance. I felt inspired to do this, and am I breaking that? Like, should I breaking that one? I was told to do this. Like, does that mean, when you receive like a prompting revelation, that you stick to it? You can't just back out and now go like, am I doing the right thing or not? And you just play this mind game. Like, am I being impressed or am I being deceived?
It's a struggle, right?
It's a struggle. 8 billion people or so on the earth, right?
Yeah.
All of them being led and guided to do the things that they feel they need to do in order to be the best version of themselves. Hopefully, it's a little absurd to think that all 8 billion are really even thinking about it.
Right.
But I wish all 8 billion were thinking about it, right? How do I maximize my experience here on earth to give? Do you remember when you guys were scouts, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you ever
we were
remember
in the scouting age before it got disbanded.
Yeah. Do you remember the idea that you go to a campsite and leave it better than you found it?
Yeah.
Right. Kind of
leave no trace.
Leave no trace, right?
We called it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Leave no trace. I think life is exactly opposite than that. If we're here for 80 or 90 years, or some people unfortunately here for 20 or 30 or 40, should we leave no trace when we're on the planet, or should we leave the planet a better place because we're here? And my attitude and opinion is we should leave it a better place. If when Dennis Leavitt dies, there was no trace of him here, then I made a mistake with my time here. I've got to leave the world a better place, and I found it.
And you have. Leave your mark, right?
Yeah, leave your mark. There you go.
It.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate, and I think it's pretty powerful that, if this wasn't the right thing and you were going against maybe what like you're feeling prompted to do, maybe you'd feel bitter. Maybe you'd actually feel bitter towards, the to SNI or you know what I mean? Like, because you kind of feel bad about yourself in a way, but you haven't done that. You've kept that going. And I even remember you say I've been to one of your classes
amazing.
Right after your teaching, and I still remember you were teaching about the Book of Mormon. I don't remember everything you said. I know this is kind of like a cliche thing to say, but I remember going to your class. I remember feeling the spirit of the words you were teaching. And so you're still having an impact, a good, positive, strong impact, and I'm not into the day to day and don't see everything, but I was impacted then from what you did. And so I guess there are ways that we can leave our mark on the world, and it doesn't always have to be, one thing or the other, but
everyone has different talents and abilities and skills, right? We have different life experiences. We've got a lot to lean on, and so we all do the very best that we can. Here's a simple way to say it for me, maybe. when I left church education, I started working for a company called Bosch.
Yeah.
That was the first one?
Yeah, when I left church education.
The guy that reached out to you for 2 years.
Yeah. So after, I don't know how to say this very well, but after a few years, none of my seminary buddies came to visit me at work.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally one of them came to visit me at work, right? And I said to him, I've been to the seminary like 100 times or whatever, and you guys can't just see. So I kind of always chided them a little bit. Like, I did not abandon ship. I go back, like I still go back to the seminary.
Oh, yeah.
And I still see all those guys, and I see them a lot more. I go to them a lot more than they come to me.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a competition. It's nothing like that, other than to say it's still in my heart and my soul.
Still there.
I told them I'll do anything for them anytime. I'll substitute. I'll volunteer. I'll do anything I can, because I wasn't abandoning ship. I was trying to expand my horizons and my abilities to give. And that's just my story. I don't know that that's true of everyone who comes or goes. And that way, I wouldn't want to be disparaging to anybody who says, oh, no, I gave it my whole career. Exactly. I retired from seminaries and institutes. Church education was important to me, and I endured to the end. This is not saying to those guys, you made a big mistake. We just all have to follow our path that God directs us down, and it's unique and different for everybody. But He's been good to us and blessed us in a lot of ways. And I feel like our impact and influence has been able to be expanded as a result of our choices. But hats off, kudos to people who can be in a career and see it through to the end and just do their thing. And we could name all the guys I know who did that, and they're still some of my great heroes. Yeah. They're good guys.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because in no way that's what I'm trying. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to, quit that or in any way. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that is important. Because I obviously, and we've all been impacted by our seminary and institute teachers, and I'll be eternally grateful for them, and for what they've done and the impact they've had on me. So it is an amazing thing, and I'm glad that they do it. And yeah,
all you're doing is you're just encouraging everyone to follow God's promptings for them.
Yeah, right? I hope so. Yeah. And that I was just asking your advice, like, how do you know if you're following the right thing or not? But you did answer my question. So
yeah, absolutely. I think everyone has their own journey, and I think it's really important to have balance. Like you talked about, having balance in the things you can offer people, but talk about maybe like work-life balance. You've been a pretty busy guy, you're stake president, and then now that you're you've moved on to, I don't know if it's corporate, but more of the business world, you keep God as the priority. What would you say to someone who's trying to keep their priorities straight and trying to keep their work-life balance? How does that all pan out?
Yeah, I don't know if I've been great at it, actually, because it is busy in life, and I would be lying to you. I think if I said that I've done everything so perfectly that I don't look back with some regrets, I would do some things different than I did my first time around. But I don't know anybody who hasn't stumbled and fallen. Right? Paul said, everyone's sinned, fallen short of the glory of God. Right? We all learn from trial and error along the way. How do I balance it? I do my best to set priorities day by day in terms of what needs attention. I've made it a life. There's just some things I've decided on in my life that I'll do. And there's a man named Spencer W. Kimball. You may, or he was, he was before your time, I know. But he encouraged us when I was a kid to make decisions before the choices were placed before us, right? Yeah. It had reference to word of wisdom. Was I going to smoke or drink alcohol? His encouragement was make a decision before you're ever offered what you're going to do. I thought about that a lot as a kid, and I made a lot of decisions that I've been able to stick with through my entire life. Some little ones that are just what I decided to do. For example, I decided I'm never going to taste Pepsi or Coke or any caffeinated drink, right? That I'm not saying that's anybody's rule. It just happens to be my rule. I just decided that that's something that I can do in my life, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the other to-dos in my life is I committed I would never say no to a church calling or responsibility. If God calls me, he'll qualify me. And I am not going to ever say no. If somebody feels impressed and prompted to ask me, then, or to call me to a position, then I've always said yes. Therefore, the priorities and the balance have to be family and God and work. And you just have to decide, how do I juggle all those things? And it's kind of different every day. It's different every week. You have to decide to do your very best and to prioritize what's most important today.
Absolutely.
Again, that's not to say I haven't made plenty of mistakes along the way, but I know you can fit everything in. You want a really crazy story?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. If you want a crazy story, here's how this one goes. At my current work, there's a lot of FLDS girls who work there.
Okay.
Right. I have the utmost respect for these girls. They're so obedient. They just do what they're asked to do. They're such hard workers. I have such a great respect for them.
Yeah.
So one day we were late at work. We were on a back order. So it was all hands on deck, go down to the warehouse and just work, right? Just everybody's got to just do everything they can to get out of this back order situation. So at some point I'm tired. I hadn't had dinner and I'm like, I got to go home. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And one of them said to me, well, I've not eaten yet. I'm like, oh, okay. Felt a little bad. Like, okay. And then she said, but you're going to go home, aren't you? Like, yeah, I probably am.
Yeah.
Anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up, going home before she did.
Right.
And then the next morning I went into work early because I'm an early guy, right? One of the first guys at work and one of the last. It's just kind of my mantra is just get things done. Just work and put all the time in you need to do to get things done. So I show up the next day and she's already there at work.
Okay.
Right?
She beat you.
Was that her normal time of showing up or no?
Her, kind of her normal. She was always one of those first guys, but she was late. She stayed late, got there early, and she had brought some treats.
Oh, wow.
That she had made for her team because they all had to stay late. And she had an hour commute to home afterwards. So I'm like, wait, you left after I did, you drove home for an hour, you baked, you got another hour in and got back to work before me. And so at some point I was saying to these devoted, hardworking, good people, I was like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't quote this on a podcast, but I'm going to anyway. She said, because we don't watch TV like you Gentiles.
I love it.
It's awesome.
That's classic.
But yeah, that's the way you prioritize, right? You just have to let some of the things that don't really matter and don't get you anywhere, you just have to let those slip out of your life, and we can find time to do stuff. We can find time to be productive and accomplish a lot. We just have to be more efficient. We have to be committed to focusing on things that really matter and prioritizing. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, that's an awesome quote. Got to not be a Gentile. Have your priorities straight. But I think it comes down to priorities. You've seen that less object lesson where if you put the small rocks in first, then the medium-sized rocks, then the big rocks won't fit. Those are the big things in life. But if you put the big rocks in, the medium rocks fill the gaps, and then the small rocks fill the gaps, and everything fits in the jar, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with whether it be like life as a whole, just in a business that you got to have your priorities straight, but then you go into life and it's like, if you I'll give you an example for me. Like if me and my wife, we notice that our scriptures are getting out of hand. We're not reading our scriptures every night, right? Even if we write it down in our planner, we don't get it at every single time, but we have a higher percentage of the time. And then same thing with like the gym, right? If it's written down, if it's planned out, it gets done a higher percentage of the time. But then at the same time, having those priorities in the back of your mind, like there's been lots of times where like someone needs me and I have to think back, zoom out to my priorities and think, okay, people are more important than me getting to the gym this morning. I'm going to miss the gym to go be here. So I think it's a balance of planning your priorities out, but also having that in the back of your mind. Like I know my priority. If something comes up, I need to switch, I can, I think that's a good example of that.
Yeah. And an accountability partner, right? If you let somebody else know what you're going to do, it's nice to have somebody that you can lean on and count on who can kind of hold your feet to the fire a little bit and help you along. And it's not in a negative, bad spirited way. It's, I want you to become the best version of yourself. So we said we're going to do it. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I was studying for the CMA, which is a Certified Managerial Accounting Certificate, and then for my master's, I had to kind of do that. I had to take the priorities and be like, okay, well, I know I want to do this and this and this, but I'll do that after I get my 2 hours of studying in. If I study 2 hours, then I can do this or then do this. And you just you got to choose those most important things first. And sometimes you don't get to all of it, all the stuff you want. Sometimes you don't get to watch TV that night. But sometimes it's what you have to do.
At our current work, we use what we call battle plans, right? A battle plan is at the end of every week, we look at our statistics and see, because key performance indicators, you probably use key performance indicators in your work, right? You're looking for those measurable, trackable, statistical items that are really worth noticing. Some things are not key. Other things are key. But in order to be an indicator, it has to be measurable. So at the end of every week, like clockwork, I look at all the key performance indicators, what my statistics are for the week, whether I'm headed in a good direction or a bad direction. And then you say, okay, I'm headed downward or I'm headed on upward tracking.
Yeah.
And then literally every week before I get started on Monday morning, the first thing I do is create a battle plan for the week. And my battle plan says, these are the kind of things I need to accomplish in order to keep my trajectory going where it needs to go. That's been a big help. And it's a lot like what you're talking about, right? Just prioritizing, deciding what needs attention, how it gets attention. Yeah. And those are things that are important. It's the way we kind of manage busy lives and still be productive in there. And I liked what you said, Ben. People always come first. Family always comes first. And at some point, we all need to just kind of blow up our battle plans if there's ever a need that a person or family has. That's one of the things Nikel's so good at, right? We're driving from Mount Pleasant on Sunday, headed home. I just spoke at a state conference up there.
Okay.
Headed home. We have another meeting to make it to in St. George. Off the side of the road is a truck pulled over with a couple of ladies trying to strap down a refrigerator.
Oh, geez. Dennis,
exactly. Big Ben's moving. We should have called them.
Oh, well.
But Dennis Leavitt drives by. Nikel Leavitt says, "You're not going to drive by those ladies with the fridge in the back of their truck, are you?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." So sure enough, but of course, we made it to the meeting. We were not late. It just was not a big issue, right? Yeah. But still, it's just one of those things that, you always drop. We've got to, in this world, find a way to start taking care of people. We got to start taking care of one another. We start to fight and argue and have divisions among all these things. It's crazy. We're all on each other's sides, and there's nothing that can't be blown up in order to just help out, right? No plan or no goals or nothing going on during the day that you can't say, "Hey, hold on here a minute. Let me go take care of somebody."
And I think that's the beauty. That's a huge driver, at least for me, and I think for most entrepreneurs in our community. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right? So we can drop whatever we need to be where we need to be, and even in a position at a job where your boss trusts you to handle your own schedule, he trusts you to get your work done, and so you have the ability to drop everything and be at home or be with a lady on the side of the road if need to be.
Yeah.
I think that's a big motivator and why we're trying to create that freedom, right? And in the long run, you get a lot more freedom later on to do good things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you get a lot of that being an entrepreneur once you get at a certain level, and you can get that through a career too, where you have that trust and flexibility. I mean, that's something I've been so impressed with Ben, seeing is his ability to do those things and prioritize his relationships more so than someone else, that is, often I found in the last summer that it's like, well, I wish I could go to that wedding, or wish I could go to my cousin's endowment, but it's like I'm all out of days, all out of hours, like, and I have a wonderful job, and I have a lot of time off. I've been really, really blessed with the time off that I've been given, but there's just, it's just nice to have that type of flexibility and to be able to you find a career or build a business to give you that type of freedom to focus on what matters most in this life, which is our relationships.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but all of us may be sitting here, talking to each other, making it sound easy. Life's not easy. Business isn't easy. Success requires a price, to be paid. If business were easy, they say everyone would do it.
Yeah,
It's true.
that's so true.
Yeah. So, and we're talking about, best case scenarios and ideal situations. But like I said, there's just no way I go home and look in the mirror every night and think I've done everything ideally every
Right.
time. Right. If I could turn back today's clock, I'd probably turn back and do things a little different. But you all learned in the mission field, right? At the end of the day, you have a little companionship inventory.
Yeah.
Then the next day you wake up and you decide, okay, what am I going to do and how am I going to do? The best companionship inventories happen with you and God. Individually, you, companionship with him. And I think that's why the scriptures say, read your scriptures and say your prayers every day, right? It's how we have companionship inventory, and we decide what we can do better, how we can improve, and what we can do to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Glad you bringing that up, because that was something that had just come to my mind, was like in business, starting a business, running a business, being an entrepreneur, working for a business can be very stressful. How do you manage that stress? Maybe helpful advice for someone who's in those situations, and that could help them be able to get through those hard times.
I'm the wrong guy to ask that question. No, I'm serious. There's a couple of gifts that I have. One of them is I can sleep anywhere, anytime, right? Like if I'm on a plane, train, or automobile, if I just, like today, I made it to a meeting coming from out of town, made it there with 15 minutes to spare. And I thought, I just need a quick nap. So I just
Nice.
laid back my seat, fell asleep, and 10 minutes later woke up and going, okay, I'm 5 minutes early. Let's do this, right? For whatever reason, I've always been able to sleep anywhere, anytime. What it means is Nikel's never had pillow talk. We don't know what that is in our household. The other thing, I literally don't have a stress bone in my body. When people tell me they're stressed over things, I cannot relate. I don't get it.
Interesting.
It's not probably healthy. It's probably not healthy for me. I don't know. I
You've
just
always
don't-
been like this?
always been like that. I just do not
It's like
get.
Alex Honnold. You seen that?
What is it?
It's the Free Solo movie
No.
where he's climbing all these mountains without ropes, and they do an actual brain scan, and they say, is it your amygdala or is it something else?
I don't know.
One piece of his brain that has the fear sensor is basically non-existent.
It just doesn't activate.
So he never gets scared. And so that's why he can climb these mountains without ropes, is because he just knows that his body's capable of it, and no one else can do it because they have those fear sensors. That's like you with the stress.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't worry about things. The reason why is it feels to me that life's better if you look out the windshield instead of the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
It always feels healthier and better. And then life's like today, or any day. I just choose to be happy, right? I mean, you're going to live life anyway. The 8 hours is going to pass. So you're either going to do it and say, I'm going to be happy while it's happening, or I'm not going to be happy while it's happening. I choose happy. I think it's better. And so I don't have a good answer. I will tell you that my perspective is that we're always amongst friends, and we're amongst people who are cheering us on, really, for the most part. And I think we can get fooled into this competition sort of a thing. I want you to succeed, both of you, in every way. I think you feel the same about me.
Definitely.
And I think the human race really is, for the most part, cheering each other on. And I don't know if I'm just a overly optimistic guy, but I don't know why I would stress about something that I can't change. That doesn't mean I don't plan or I don't try and be organized or I don't schedule. And maybe that's stress and I just don't know it. But it feels like there's not a lot of reason for me to worry about things. It's all going to turn out. And if it doesn't go exactly as I planned, then I'll try and correct it and make it better tomorrow. But I just can't spend my life looking in the rearview mirror. I'm unwilling to do that.
That's such a, I mean, it comes natural. And I think it's, talk about nature versus nurture.
I was just going to say that. Let's bring it.
People need to nurture that because it applies to business and it applies to the gospel, right? So in business, if you have a low tolerance for stress and hard times, like you said, you're not going to last long. You have to build up that high tolerance for stress and failure to keep going. You can't look in the rear view. And at a spiritual note, on a spiritual level, it's the same thing. Like if you're never going to be perfect. And so if you're looking in the rear view, you're going to bring yourself down. But if you're facing the future, you're always going to be in the right spot. One of my favorite spiritual analogies is about the role of like guilt and regret in our process. And it's you probably heard it, but it's the car, and it's talking about how, basically all that guilt and regret is the battery. And if we can just use that to turn on the car, lots of people think that our spiritual journey is powered by that, but all it does is change our direction. And then our looking through the future, that's our gas. That's our fuel. That's what keeps us going. Once we've shifted and improved and had that inventory or checked on our battle plan, we get rid of that and then we keep moving forward on a spiritual level and on a business level, because if you spend too much time in that, that's when you can really start to backslide in business and spiritually, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, maybe it is more of a choice. Like you said, maybe you've been doing it for so long, you don't remember the last time you were stressed. I say that as hope for those that might think that this is not a nature thing. Maybe it can be nurtured kind of thing where, like you said, I'm choosing to look at things in a different way. Why would I choose to stress myself out? Because I can't change it. And that's easier said than done. I mean, it's really hard to, in the moment, and for people that suffer from that, it's not easy, but maybe it is just that simple. At least what I'm thinking out loud is, you just got to choose to look at as positively. It's going to be fine. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You can't ignore it, but you can't ignore your failure, but you have to know its role, and you have to know that it's such a small part of the total machine that you have to get rid of it as fast as you can and just keep moving forward. So I like that.
Yeah, there is. I like everything you're describing. There's value at recognizing our faults and our shortcomings and the times when we fall. We just have to. I don't know what to do other than focus forward. That's all.
That's awesome. Well, what's next? I mean, we kind of skipped over the stops at Squatty Potty and Balance of Nature, two exciting places to be, and now you're with United We Pledge. So tell us about what you're doing now and what the future looks like.
United We Pledge is a very cool place for me to end my career and to move into retirement years. Like I said, it was the charity arm of Balance of Nature where it started. As the vice president of public relations there, I was asked to help find ways for the Howard family, the owner and CEO of Balance of Nature.
We need to have them on, by the way.
Yeah, Lex is a really good guy.
Yeah.
He's a really good guy. But we were just trying to find a way to do public relations in a way where there could be a good impact made in patriotism and in remembering all the good things that America's about, our founding fathers and all of that. So United We Pledge started. It started with an idea that we ought to join in on patriotic celebrations like the 4th of July and other things. But it's really grown now. We have 3 focuses. We have a focus on education. We believe education's important. we talked a lot about me and my heart and passion for education. So right now, I'm working in that area of emphasis in United We Pledge. We just launched a nationwide curriculum for mothers on American history.
Oh, wow.
No, and so all of a sudden I get to write curriculum like I did for the church. Other than now, it's American history focused. And I get to review lessons and sit in with moms who are teaching their children in these pilot studies to say, wait, do this when you're teaching or try this when you're teaching. But we really believe that the difference in America is going to be made when moms and dads engage their children in discussion and dialogue about the important documents in this nation of the Constitution of the United States, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights.
Wow.
And that discussion should belong and can belong in schools, but where the heartbeat of that discussion should be is in families. And so we created a curriculum. We did a soft launch on July 4th with a couple of lesson outlines. And on September 1st, we're starting a full-blown nationwide curriculum, a free curriculum for moms and dads.
Do they find it online or?
Yeah, UnitedWePledge.org. We call it United We Pledge Academy. So that's one of our areas, is just to continue to help families have dialogue and discussion about America, the good things about America. There's plenty of bad things about America too, and those shouldn't be ignored. But we don't focus on that. You focus on what's good and how there's a solution that's out there. So one emphasis is education. The other emphasis is celebration. So we continue to celebrate Veterans Days and Constitution Days and Bill of Rights Week and all of those kind of things that are coming up. We have a team devoted to supporting events that are patriotic in nature. The biggest event coming up is America 250. You may or may not be aware that on July 4th, 2026, that's the 250th birthday of America.
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing everything we can to put together a very big party for Washington County to celebrate America's 250th birthday. We think it's worth celebrating. We think it's a fantastic time. And United We Pledge is doing all we can to kind of emphasize those kind of celebrations.
Wow.
And then our last area of emphasis is destination. You may or may not know this, but we just broke ground on 35 acres of almost 40 acres of campus in Hurricane, Utah, to build a Liberty Village. So we're building think of historic Williamsburg or think of like Nauvoo, only instead of church-related things, think of it as American history things. So we're going to build a literal 1700s colonial village with George Washington and Adams and Jefferson walking the streets where people can come and ask them questions and talk to them. They'll stay in character. They'll answer questions. We're going to build a replica of Independence Hall, Mount Vernon.
Wow.
We're going to build the Old North Church in Boston or another, patriotic kind of early Americana church, maybe the Episcopalian church where Patrick Henry gave his impassioned speech, "Give me liberty or give me death."
Wow.
We're going to have a blacksmith shop and a bakery and a cooper's shop and a tannery. So when you go to our campus, it's going to be like walking back into the 1700s and talking about the history and the foundation of America. Wow. Well, if you're an old guy like me with as much gray hair as I've got, that's exciting. It's exciting to build that kind of project, to have a national curriculum, to have celebration of all the big things that are coming up. So it's taking a lot of my time, but it's exciting. And I envision myself as an 80 or 90-year-old man kind of walking around that campus watching all these youth being educated, not in church education, but in
an important
and spiritual education. And I just happen to believe that we only know who we know. We have only the resources we have, and we have the talents or skills we have. That's it. And like President Uchtdorf said, we lift where we stand. All Dennis Leavitt can do is his very best with what I've got. And I know the Constitution is at risk in many people's mind. I know that there's prophecies and concerns about the destiny of the Constitution, but we're committed to doing our part where we live to ensure that constitutional ideas are maintained and that youth have a chance to have that education. Yeah, so I'm still a teacher.
Wow.
And I still have a chance to make a difference in the lives of youth. And when I'm 80 or 90, I'm going to be walking around this little campus watching kids come to campus. And I'm going to, with my cane or my walker or whatever, I'm going to be going, let's do this. So United We Pledge, I'm excited about it. Balance of Nature is our key contributor. They donated $5 million worth of property for the project. They've donated lots of money. We're continuing to be about fundraising, trying to. It's not a Balance of Nature campus. It's a campus for America. So we are reaching out in fundraising ways. Do I have the resume to be a fundraiser? The answer is nope. Didn't have the resume to be a Bosch guy either. So
you have the passion and a little bit of the I'll figure it out in you.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's like, okay, there's another part of life that will be a good skill for me to have. And as long as I leave Earth and I'm trying to get to heaven, may as well take as many skills as I can with me, right? Yeah. So we'll figure it out without question. But we broke ground on July 2nd. We start farming the property in September. We found a farmer in Delta who's going to come down. He's a 1700s farmer who is been in blacksmithing for 36 years. He's a wheelwright. He still farms with horses.
How is he a 1700s farmer because he still uses horses and blacksmith stuff?
Yes.
Did he do that like his whole life, or
when you see him,
awesome.
You are going to love this guy, man. He is legitimately it's like walking back in the 1700s when you meet him. So he's coming down. Yeah, he'll be here. I don't know. God is so good.
Seems pretty.
The miracles and the ways that pieces of this puzzle have fit together have been miraculous. But yeah, he's coming down, starts on September 8th.
Send us an invite.
It's awesome, man. Yeah,
I'm
it's very
really happy to hear this. I mean, we get bombarded with so much negativity and a lot of the evils and everything. And I had been laying down at night on my pillow just wondering where are the good people at. Like, I hope I can be one of the, but like, who's fighting the good fight? And so I'm just really grateful to be hearing this because I think it is important. And making full circle, I'm thinking, taking all the experiences you had with, the choices you made and the path you took in education and being able to use that and be an instrument for this, which is an extremely important thing that you're doing. And so, yeah, it's just cool. Really, really. I'm excited about that too. That's going to be really, really cool.
No, it's going to be fantastic, and the curriculum is but everything everything everyone in the world is doing is fantastic. I think we need to be each other's cheerleaders more.
Right.
I think we just. I just listened to a conference talk. The Elder Gong on my way to work this morning. Elder Gong gave a conference talk about everyone has a story. Mm-hmm. You remember that talk?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's right on the money. That if we can take the time, just like you guys are bringing this cool podcast together, where you're just saying we just want to hear people's stories.
Right.
Oh yeah, because the impact on us, we don't feel like we could keep that from everybody else. Everyone that's impacted us, every guest has been an impact to us, and we want to pass that along. And that's kind of the mission statement.
Yeah, we want to hear each other's. We want to hear their stories.
That's right. And as we hear stories, we develop a greater love and appreciation and passion for what we as a human family are doing. I think there's just value in that. And I think if I can take the time to listen to other people's stories, then I get where they're coming from. I have a lot of connection with them. Maybe, I don't know what our time is. I'll end.
Yeah, give us one last thought.
You guys are in charge. You have to wrap this up or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Give us one more takeaway.
I'll tell you one of the life-changing moments that happened to me. I don't know that I tell anyone this story. To say that I've never told it is probably a lie or an exaggeration. But I don't know why it impacted me so much. It was a simple sentence. It was not earth-shattering. It did not happen in an earth-shattering place. But like making a decision to never taste caffeine or whatever, I made a decision that day. I was teaching in the MTC, young married guy going to BYU to school. I can't even remember the guy's name who told me, but we were eating lunch together in the MTC cafeteria. I saw him as a really impressive person. And I asked him, like, what's your secret to life? what do you do? Because you're impressive. And he said, I don't know that I'm that impressive. He kind of was like, I don't know.
Modest.
I don't know.
guy.
He was modest. But then he said, I've committed in my life never to say anything bad about anybody. I only want to compliment people.
Wow.
Now, I don't know that I've done it 100% of the time. You may or may not agree with whether I've done it well, but I genuinely try and compliment and see the good in people. And I, from that time forward, thought, people need to know they're loved. People need to know they're good. There's no reason to. Everybody, we all know our own faults. We know what we do wrong. We can see in the mirror. We know what we got going wrong. We need everyone else to be our cheerleaders. But I have been superbly, I don't know the word. I've been remarkably blessed by that man's statement. Man, he was my age, right? We're both BYU students together teaching the MTC, and I can't even remember his name. All I know is I believed him when he said it, and I've tried to live it, is just to say good things about people instead of bad things about people. It's changed my life.
I think that's a good place to kind of round out, because it just goes back to people, right? What is this life about? It's about lifting people everywhere you go. And it's definitely something that I've seen in you. I could do a lot better, but I think that's really what it comes down to. That's the best way to give back, is to bring people up with you. And that's what being a leader is truly about. So thank you.
No, thanks for having me. Nice to be with you tonight.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the show.